PRIMA trial was really a landmark trial in patients with ovarian cancer in terms of maintenance therapy. So we knew from SOLO-1 that PARP inhibition was important in patients with BRCA mutations, but this took it a step farther, and we now know that PARP inhibition is good for all patients, that all patients benefit from this. We do know that there are gradations based on their homologous repair deficiency. So if you're homologous deficient, your benefit from the PARP inhibition is similar to those patients with BRCA mutations. Now, if you're proficient, as we discussed, those patients don't benefit as much, but they still benefit. The primary endpoint of the PRIMA trial was progression-free survival. It's very difficult to show an overall survival in any upfront ovarian cancer trials. So the OS is probably not obtainable, particularly outside of the BRCA mutated population. Do I think that this will increase the survival? I do think it will, but it's going to be different. It's going to be difficult to show this in a clinical trial. The PRIMA trial and the other trials in ovarian cancer and maintenance therapy have really changed fundamentally how we talk to patients about treatment. So it used to be we would treat patients with chemotherapy and then there would be no treatment afterwards. Now I think it's the standard of care to at least discuss maintenance therapy, and we have to discuss the risks and the benefits and the side effects of these medications. Now with the HRD testing, we can be a little bit more precise about the benefit that patients will get, and we need to have a very honest discussion about that versus the toxicities of these medicines. So there is some nausea that's associated with these medicines. We know there's some bone marrow suppression associated with these medicines. So, but there's also great benefit. I think we need to do a better job in the future of trying to predict who, particularly in the HR proficient group, will benefit from PARP inhibition. The PRIMA trial was designed to take a very high-risk patient population, patients with residual disease. Once they had a response to platinum therapy, they were then randomized. So randomization started at the end of chemotherapy. Patients were put on either placebo or maintenance niraparib and followed for a PFS endpoint. So niraparib does have side effects. These can be chronic. Most patients tolerate this medicine well. I think it's important to tell patients that they may have side effects up front and to expect that. Manage these aggressively, whether it's manage the nausea, manage the sleep disturbances. And we also tell patients that these side effects are going to get better over time. I think it's very important when we first start these medicines, especially in the first couple months, to make sure that there's not sudden bone marrow suppression, because this is a known side effect of these medicines, but manageable. And if they have any kind of bone marrow suppression, whether it's thrombocytopenia, anemia, or even if they have neutropenia, we can stop the medicine, let patients recover, and restart or perhaps dose reduce. Particularly for patients that have low starting platelets or low weight, we need to be careful about the dose. So we may want to start at a lower dose. So the recommended dose for patients under 77 kilograms or platelet counts under 150,000 is 200 milligrams a day as opposed to the 300 milligram a day dosing. I think it's important to understand that in the PRIMA trial and in other trials, dose reduction is not necessarily associated with decreased efficacy. So we don't think that dose reduction based on side effects is going to take away from the efficacy of these drugs.